Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Forever Young. I'm your host, David Linton, and today, as always, we are here to talk about life and how it affects those of us who are over 50. The name of the program is Forever Young because that is true. You are forever young. It's all about your mind because age is nothing but a number. And of course, each week I'm happy to share this beautiful platform with two beautiful ladies who make this show what it is. And again, I get to be that only guy with these two lovely ladies. And that's good for a guy's ego when you get over 50. So of course, I'm talking about Miss Jean Hendricks. We call her beautiful. And welcome to the show, Jean.
Thank you, David. And as always, I'm delighted to share this post with you. Back to you.
And then, of course, our other beautiful co-host is Dr. Sharon Mitchell. She kind of makes things happen all behind the scenes. She's on front of the camera and behind the camera. We couldn't do this show without her, and that's Dr. Sharon Mitchell. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Thank you, David. And it's always a pleasure to share this platform with you and Miss Jean. We've got some good stuff for you today. Thank you for having me.
You're absolutely right. We do have some great stuff today. And what we're talking about today is something that's really important for everybody. I think everybody has been dealing with, COVID, mental health is something that we don't talk about a lot in our communities. And it affects all ages. We're looking at things about, kids are having stress problems. We're talking about elderly people. And of course, obviously, one of the things that COVID has shown us is that you may love the person you live with, but do you really like them? And how do you handle that? So we're going to talk about that. And we've got a great guest to get into some of those things. But of course, before we can do that, we know that Jean has something that sets the stage for our topic today. So Jean, what pearl do you have for us today?
Thank you, David. Today I found a topic entitled Dare to Self-Care. Speak kindly to your inner self. Don't take your demon's view. You are you, and no one else will lead the life you do. Kill your inner critic and balance all of his chatter. Silence all of his chatter. Then write this truth inside your brain. I'm worth it, and I matter. Back to you, David.
Well, that's true. You matter, we matter. Last week we talked about affirmations and self-affirmations. Well, today we have someone who's going to talk to us about self-care and helping you to create your best self. And I'm talking about Reverend Yolanda Seals Stewart. She's a native of New Orleans, Louisiana. She's been a psychotherapist for the last 20 years. She's the chief executive officer at Alliant Behavioral Health LLC in Marietta. And she's also the director of Project Growth Initiative, a nonprofit arm of the company. She's fully licensed as a psychotherapist, trauma specialist, and certified professional counseling supervisor. And she's been in practice since 2005 here in the Atlanta metro area. She's also the former clinical director and trainer of Behavioral Health Links, Georgia Crisis Access Line for Suicide, and a former FEMA crisis intervention contractor for evacuees of Hurricane Katrina. And she's also worked discreetly with various professional athletes in both the NBA and NFL and several other celebrities. Because people think the celebrities have it all together, but they really don't. They, like everybody else, have those challenges. And so she has 23 years of experience in grant writing proposals for various programs, including the Catholic Charities Archdiocese of New Orleans and the New Orleans Job Initiative Work Investment Act program. I could talk for hours about her credentials and her qualifications, but there's nothing better than having to bring her to the stage herself. And we'd like to welcome Reverend Yolanda Seals Stewart. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
We're
It
doing
is a
great.
blessing to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you for being here to share this topic with us that's so important. And we're talking about self-help and reading your bio, thing that stuck out when you said you worked with athletes and celebrities, because people think those people they got it all together. And, at the end of the day, They are people just like us. And so to kick today's show off, Dr. Mitchell, we're going to let Dr. Mitchell have the first shot today and get us going today.
All right, thank you, David. So, Reverend Stewart, we understand that you're the CEO of Project Growth Initiative, along with Alliant Behavioral Health. Can you tell us about your organization and
Yes,
what
of
it's
course.
all
Sure. Align Behavioral Health is a behavioral health private practice that has been in operation since 2006, and we provide behavioral health counseling as well as support for the individual and the family. We service individuals with depression, anxiety, substance abuse, marital, couple therapy, and we also service individuals with SMI, which is serious mental illness such as bipolar, PTSD, and schizophrenia. Project Growth Initiative is a nonprofit arm that was started 2005, right after Katrina, because what we noticed whenever I go home or when I would go home to New Orleans, there was nothing for the kids to do. So my former pastor back then, my late pastor, he's now deceased, donated the building. And what we did, we started a program for kids can come and just be kids, providing games and support for them. And that has grown in the greater Atlanta area as well as in the New Orleans area. We provide, this is for kids with PTSD, adjustment disorder, depression, and anxiety. And we provide activities for them, self-esteem building activities. We also do tutoring, family support. And we have had the support of the NBA with basketball camps, the NFL with football camps, and various fraternities and sororities over the years.
Very good. Awesome.
Thank you.
So, Jean?
Doctor, yes, I have a question I'd like to ask. What is the mission, vision of the Atlanta Behavioral Health? What is your vision?
The vision of Aligned Behavioral Health is to help those with those who are in emotional distress during a difficult time. We provide comprehensive mental health treatment with a caring team of therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, nurse practitioners, as well as caseworkers at times. Our goal is to one day open a minority-owned African-American behavioral health hospital because there isn't one and operating in the United States. And right now we're on the path to do that.
Good. Very good. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah. No, you said something when you were answering Sharon's question, talking about your clientele. I was going to ask you about who your clientele is, but you mentioned something very specific when you talked about kids, and today, just yesterday on the news, I was looking at a story. They were talking about kids being under stress because of COVID and how it's affecting people. So how do you handle a child in this situation versus an adult? What is the different dynamics and get those children, because they're missing that interpersonal relationships in a lot of cases.
Right. Not only is the child missing those interpersonal relationships in those cases, children are also going through what we call human growth and development stages. And when something traumatic like this interrupts that, it sets the child off. For example, if they're at a stage in their life when they're trying to find out who they are and their own self-identity, for example, children who are in middle school or 6th grade or 5th grade, if you're taking a project from them from being in school or taking them away from school, you're taking away their social environment. A lot of children turn to social media. I was sharing with Dr. Mitchell, a lot of children turn to social media or their peers for validation a lot of times. And if you're taking the school away from them or you're taking their activities away from them and they're turning to social media, if they post something and only get 10 likes, their whole world is destroyed because they only got 10 likes.
Right.
So when you taking a component away like that and having them depend solely on social media, that's very detrimental to them. So in therapy, what we do, we help the child to notice that they have strengths as well, and help them with their own personal self-esteem. So they're getting validation from within the house and not relying solely on the validation that they're getting from their peers, if that kind of makes sense.
Wow.
Definitely.
Yes.
So let me ask you, first of all, how you're doing as a therapist in this COVID environment. And then secondly, how has COVID how you deliver your services to your clientele?
Okay. We as a private practice are quite overwhelmed, believe it or not, to the point that I had to increase my staff within the past 2 to 3 months. That's how overwhelmed we are. And because of COVID, we're seeing an increase in domestic violence. And it is prohibiting those who want to leave from leaving due to their jobs or school closures. We're seeing an increase in child abuse as children are now homeschooled, which prohibits the teachers or social workers from noticing any type of abuse. And abuse is easier to hide when the kids are at home. We're seeing an increase in suicidal ideation. For example, this week I had to put six patients, the sixth one was today. I had to put 6 patients in the hospital for care. Because those with serious mental illness such as bipolar and schizophrenia, they don't do well with isolation. So we are seeing an increase in individuals who are having suicidal ideation, panic attacks due to the isolation as well. We're seeing an enormous increase in depression with children and teens, as well as golden agers due to the isolation. We're seeing an increase in negative coping skills such as alcoholism, substance abuse, believe it or not, and shopping online. I was making a joke to my husband the other day. I said, I've never seen the Amazon delivery truck so many times in our neighborhood delivering packages, because people are using shopping as a coping mechanism because they can't get out. So those are some of the things that we're seeing, and some of the services that we're delivering to our clientele, such as the counseling, such as the substance abuse piece, getting them connected, as well as being a support for them during this time.
Very good.
Wow.
So as a licensed therapist, we would like to discuss self-care for this particular segment. Can you explain to us what self-care actually is?
Self-care is taking the time out to focus on you and focus on the care for your psychological, emotional, physical, and spiritual needs. Self-care is a practice of doing things to take care of your mind, your body, your soul, and engaging in activities that promote well-being and reduce stress. It reminds yourself and others that your needs are a priority. Every person deserves to have a healthy relationship with others, but also you deserve to have a happy and healthy relationship with yourselves as well.
Now that's a mouthful. You're absolutely right. Jean,
kinds
I
of
think you're
activities-
muted. Okay, there you go. There you go, Jean. We couldn't hear you at first. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm just asking, can you be specific about the kinds of activities those of us who are over 55 can do to keep our minds active? I mean, we're home now, so we're closed in, and there are some of us who live alone and don't have transportation. I mean, what can we do to keep our minds alert?
Well, there are several things. One, believe it or not, if you have a cell phone, there are some wonderful games that you can play. For example, a lot of card games you can play either on your cell phone or the computer. There are also puzzles that you can do, crossword puzzles that you can do. Zoom. My mother, being transparent, my mother is 81 years old, and she loves Zooming with the family as well as with the grandkids. Making sure you connect with your friends, call and check up on your friends, making sure that you are still engaged in activities. It's helpful that our church has online programs such as this, or have programs where we can watch church and do Bible study. But keeping yourself engaged, keeping yourself engaged and trying to find something new, learn something new online. What's the name of that? YouTube have a lot of self-help type of videos if there's something you want to learn new online. My mother took up playing the guitar just by looking at a video online. So we try to help people, we call them golden agers, to look at other things or ways that they can engage each other as well as keep their mind stimulated while they're isolated.
Right. Okay. Very good.
That's
Thank
good
you.
stuff.
Yeah, it is. It
That
is.
really is. That is some good stuff, because again, we talk about the isolation and talk
Yeah.
about games with people using their phones, and technology has really allowed everyone who thought technology was not for them to really embrace technology. And I think that's
Right.
really one of the things that's really been, you're trying to find a silver lining in everything. And I think that silver lining is that I know just yesterday, my nephew celebrated his his 12th birthday, and we celebrated. We had a Zoom party, and his grandmother, who is 70 plus, I won't say in case she ever sees this, but she was on Zoom, and she was just having a good time, and so it really is good about the connectivity. And like you said, Dr. Reverend Stewart, that we have these programs, and anybody who's just tuning in, this is Forever Young, a production of Hope TV, a program that's designed to help us understand that life over 50 is not the end of the world. Even if it's 60, 70, life is a state of mind. And today we have Reverend Yolanda Seal Stewart, who is talking to us about self-care, and she is the CEO of the Alliant Behavior Science, and the CEO, should I say, of Project Growth Initiative. And so what happens when we neglect our self-care? What happens to us if we just, don't do what we're supposed to do, as you're advising us?
Well, if you neglect your self-care, there are a lot of things that happen. One, you become depressed. Two, you become you develop symptoms of anxiety. You're not good for anyone else, nor are you good for yourself. We begin to see some other symptoms, like you might start having what we call somatic symptoms. Somatic symptoms are your stomach hurting for no reason, or you having a headache and the doctor can't find out what's going on, or you having these heart palpitations and you go to the doctor and the doctor say, oh, your heart is fine. When you neglect caring for yourself, it begins to show when you do not take care of yourself at all. So that's why self-care is extremely important. Self-care is extremely important for you to maintain your life balance. Self-care is important activity to do every day, because it would help, by doing so, would help lead you toward a better balance among your dimensions of wellness, and lead you toward improving overall health and wellness within yourself. Life is precious and is meant to be enjoyed. I always share with people the scripture, God said, God said in our Genesis 1:26, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. And God made us three different things: emotional beings, spiritual beings, and also on the seventh day, he rested. So that's another part of self-care, is making sure that you get enough rest and really take care of yourself.
Good.
Yeah.
So Reverend Stewart, I want to ask, since our audience is primarily over 50, we find ourselves in the role of being caregivers. Can you provide us with what those caregiver traits are and how they affect our self-care?
Sure. One of the traits is being selfless, being seen as the strong one or the savior. And we can talk about that too as well. Patience, compassion, attentiveness, dependability, and trustworthy. And those who are caregivers, we neglect our own self-care because we have all of these qualities and we want to give these qualities, but we don't give those things to ourselves as well. We don't even save ourselves. One of the things I tell people, you cannot be everything to everyone else, and you can't be nothing to yourself. You can't keep pouring out into people and no one pours into you. So that's why self-care is extremely important.
Wow.
Would you suggest that a person who is providing self-care perhaps have a schedule for themselves so they can take a moment or take some time for themselves?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Put yourself first. Take care of you first. Being transparent, my husband, he's amazed at how I do it. Every morning I wake up at 5 o'clock. And about 5:30, I'm at a gym for an hour and a half. So before I start my day, I take care of myself. I also have my devotionals in the morning time before I start my day. So I do that before I go to the gym, and I do it again after I come from the gym. But the morning time is for me before I get my day started. On Sundays after church, I don't do anything. I don't see patients. I don't do anything with the house, anything, because that's my time for me. So putting yourself first, taking care of yourself is very, very important.
That's very good. That is really good, because I think we get caught up into like what you called what is called the savior syndrome. And that savior syndrome can be dangerous. And for people who may not be familiar with that, how would you describe that savior syndrome? Uh,
The
Reverend
savior
Stewart?
syndrome is sometimes called a savior complex or the white knight syndrome, And this is the need to save people by fixing their problems. And sometimes when we are I would call golden agers, or we are parents, or we're the oldest child, or we're that person, or we're the boss at work, we have the need to fix everyone's problem. And it only feels good, it only feels good about yourself when you're helping someone. But you have to believe that helping others you believe that helping others is your purpose, which is true. But however, you have to realize that there's a difference between helping others and serving others. And one of the things that I love about Dr. E. Dewey Smith, our pastor, is the fact he always pushing us to serve, because when you're helping others, your helping is based on inequality. For example, I'm the oldest child, and I was always told growing up or coming up as an oldest child, help your sister with her homework, or help your brother with this, it's your job to help them. It's always your job to help. And now to this day, even though that I am an adult, they still see me as the person, not their equal, because I'm the oldest. They look up to me as the person that they have to always come to for advice. They see me as the same light that they see my mom, and my mom is still alive. But when you are serving someone, you serve with your strength, you serve with yourself, you draw from all your other experiences when you're serving somebody. And it's a total difference between serving and helping somebody. When you're helping somebody, you're easily drained, you're easily depleted, you're easily get frustrated, and it shows an inequality, because that person is now seeing you as a greater person than them. And they're seeing you as somebody that they are indebted to. But when you are serving somebody, they don't see you as such. When you're serving somebody, there's a feeling of gratitude. There's a mutual feeling of healing between both of you two, between you two, when you're serving somebody. Whereas when you're helping somebody, there's a feeling of satisfaction for you, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and you kind of stepped on all 10 of my toes. No,
Yes.
especially
All of
but
us.
when you
Yes.
you made the analogy of being the oldest. I am the oldest
Mhm.
in my family, and I am. There's an 18-year difference between me and my baby sister. Now, my parents, I won't even talk about them. But again, but they, I was like, how was that supposed to happen? But anyway, both my parents are deceased, but I am the oldest, and I was always taught, and I'm the only boy, and there's two girls. And so I was always taught,
Wow.
I got to take care of your sisters. You got to
Yeah.
look out for them, et cetera, et cetera. And because of the age difference between me and my youngest sister, at one time she was looking like she had two fathers. And my father was very engaged, and I was like, wait a time out. I'm your brother. I'm not your father. But
Right.
so again, I understand that, that when you get caught in that, and then you get trapped. And
Yes.
so when you get trapped, it's being able to, we need skills on how to escape that, and so that we can be, we can level the playing field and have fun with our siblings or whoever that person is.
Yes.
So I'm going to let Jean ask the next question. But like I said, you stepped on all 10 of my toes, and that was good, though, because that's real. That's real. And I'm sure our listeners out there's somebody out there who's the oldest who's saying, "Yeah, that's me. That's
Yep.
me."
Yes.
I think I want to ask
It's
you
true.
about journalism, journaling. Really, is that important to self-care? If you're writing,
Oh,
keeping
yes,
track of things?
journaling is very important to self-care. A lot of times we struggle with expressing our feelings. I'm sorry, I moved it. Expressing our feelings and expressing our emotion. So when we get it on paper, or have the opportunity to get it on paper, we're able to look at it and say, you know what? I could have handled this better. Or you know what? Maybe I need to step away from this. Or maybe I need to handle this better. Maybe I should have said no. So when you journal, it's all about you getting your thoughts down on paper so that you can process your thoughts. Is all about you looking at issues that are unresolved, because you get to analyze that, maybe I'm acting this way because this happened in the past, or you know what, every time I'm journaling, I'm putting the same thing down. I'm noticing a pattern. It helps you to see things. And it also helps you to validate yourself and not be so hard on yourself. So we as therapists, we always encourage our patients to journal, not just the bad things, but the good, the bad, and the ugly. Write everything down so you can kind of see what your patterns are, or see what your triggers are for certain behaviors, or notice what coping skills are you using for different behaviors, so how you best improve those coping skills or eliminate those triggers, if that kind of makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Very much,
And
very
let
much
me
so.
add this
So,
from a personal point of view, as far as personal care is concerned. This is what I do every morning when I get up. No matter, before I wash my face, before I comb my hair, I tell myself how smart and how beautiful I am. My children think I'm
Mhm.
crazy, but I'm beautiful and I know I'm beautiful. So I tell myself that.
Mhm.
So that's part of my self-care.
Yes, we call it positive
Affirmation.
affirmations, and
yes.
positive
Yes,
affirmation. It is good, so good that you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, you know what, I am
yes,
worth it. Today is going to
Yeah.
be a good day. Today is going to be a
yes,
fantastic day. So that's all about,
yes,
that's
yes,
all important to your own self-care. So that's very good that you do that.
yes.
So,
Back to you,
so that
David.
sounds like some of the examples for self-care. Can you tell us other types of self-care that our audience can practice?
As in regards to self-care
Outside of
guidelines, that's what
journaling,
you're asking?
yes.
Uh-huh,
Are there other
of course.
ways that we can
So,
participate in self-care?
oh, absolutely. Making sure you get enough sleep. If you sleep in too much or too little, that means something is wrong. So making sure you get at least 8 hours of sleep, no less than 6. So 6 to 8 hours of sleep is normal. Taking care of yourself by taking care of your what you're eating, what you put inside of your body. That's all about self-care. Not eating too much sweets. Exercise, and when you exercise, it increases dopamine in your brain. So making sure that you exercise. Um, don't overindulge in food. Don't eat too much. Don't stop skipping meals. Those are also signs that you're not taking good care of yourself. Saying no, that's a huge one because we have a problem with telling people no. The world is not going to end because you told somebody no. They will figure it out and it will be okay. It is okay to say no, or say, oh, you know what? I am sorry, but I'm not comfortable with doing that. Or right now, I can't give that energy to that right now because this is a little difficult for me. But it's okay to tell somebody no and set those boundaries. Take self-care trips. Take 4-day weekends when you're by yourself in a hotel, just doing nothing but watching TV or reading a book or whatever. Do weekends by yourself. Take a trip by yourself. One of the things that we find that we do or have a hard time doing, either in the workplace or even in the church setting, delegating duties. You can't hold on to everything and do everything by yourself. You have to have a level of delegation and releasing stuff and saying, you know what, why don't you take care of this? You're very good with this, or well, let so and so take care of this. They're very good with that. I'm gonna share a little something with you that I found out how to take care of myself a long time ago. My father, a little story. My father used to be a district manager at A&P. I don't know if you guys know what A&P is. A long time ago. And my first management job, I was a manager at McDonald's. And I'm telling my age, I came home with a beeper one time, and because I was living in another state, and my beeper kept going off every 10 to 15 minutes. I'm calling the store. And my father just sat there and he looked at me and he said, did you let is somebody else in charge while you're gone? I said, no, Dad, I'm in charge, yada, yada, yada. I'm the store manager. But the beeper kept going on after 5 or 10 minutes. So he watched that for about an hour, and then he sat me down and he said, baby girl, I'm going to show you how to take care of yourself. You have to put your aces in their places, meaning those who are good at their job, train them and let them do it, or either you need to start delegating things, because if you keep going at this rate, you're going to be emotionally drained and you're going to hate your job within the next 6 months to a year. He said you have to learn to let people do their jobs, and you have to delegate things, and you have to put things in other people's hands and give them the power and authority to do those things. So that really hit home for me, and ever since then, and that's been like about 35 years ago, I have been delegating a lot of stuff, even with the kids. Um, Knowing yourself and knowing your love language. What best satisfy you? Are you a person that needs somebody to do for you, or do you need someone to talk to? To talk to you. What is your love language? Addressing unresolved issues is self care. If you holding on to grudges from your past, from what Big Mama did or somebody did to you, you're not taking care of yourself because you're holding stuff here and you're holding stuff here. So letting go of unresolved issues and talking that out with a therapist and having a therapist to work with you through those things. Being aware of internalizing your negative self-talk. Sometimes we are internalized things that were said to us a long time ago. I remember the comedian, he was sharing how one of the teachers told him that he would never be nothing in life and would never amount to nothing. And he's a big time comedian right now. And he was telling the story how he wished he could see her so he could tell her that she was wrong. But he said as a kid and even as an adult, he still repeat that over in his head right before he go on stage that a teacher told him he would never be anything. So being aware of you internalizing your negative self-thoughts and those voices that's in your head that people have already told you that's not true. Journaling, like we just talked about, and also the primary thing that would help you with your self-guide to self-care, get a therapist. Please get a therapist. Just because you get a therapist doesn't mean that you're crazy. And just because you get in a therapist doesn't mean that you're weak. Getting a therapist doesn't mean that you're not emotionally strong. Having a therapist is very, very, very good for you psychologically to have somebody to bounce something off.
Well, you know, this has been, that bit of information that you gave was such a great summation for our program today, Reverend Yolanda C. Stewart. It really was. I mean, and I think that everything that you said was right. We obviously we could go on, but you know, the voices inside of my ears saying, wrap it up. So we're going to wrap it up. But again, we have been talking with Reverend Yolanda Seal Stewart of the Alliant Behavioral Health LLC and the CEO of Project Growth Initiative. She's available on Facebook by going to Facebook, Alliant Behavioral Health LLC. And again, we would just want to thank you for so much for spending some time with the audience here Forever Young, because the information you shared with us today will not only keep us mentally sound, but it will also keep us forever young. On behalf of Gene Hendricks and Dr. Sharon Mitchell, I'm your host, David Linton. On behalf of our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr., and the entire Hope TV staff, we thank you for joining us. And remember, you are forever young because age ain't nothing but a number. Until the next time, be blessed. We'll see you later. Bye now.
Thank you.